Welcome to the CITIUS Mac podcast. I'm Chris Chavez.
And I'm Mac Fleet.
On this week's show, the World Indoor Tour came to an end in Birmingham with some record-setting performances. Mondo Duplantis broke his own world record again. Talitha Diggs didn't just settle for an NCAA record. She also went on to run the fastest ever indoor 400 by an American woman. And we also had some solid races take place in Boston. But first, before we unpack all of that stuff, I've got a nice vintage cola Olipop in front of me. Mac, do you have any on hand right now?
No, I'm all out. I need to actually get another case.
We're gonna, yeah. The fun part is like next week we're gonna be in Boston, and so we already know where our Olipop spot is gonna be. But I love it. It's delicious. People have been hearing us rant and rave about Olipop. The best part has been I just got a recommendation from somebody who said that it's the vintage cola, mix it with cold brew, and you've got yourself a nice little mix. I didn't even think about that. You know, we've talked about in the past about cocktails, but just the caffeine fix. You can like that sounds like a good combination for, and I'm gonna try it out in the next day or two. But Olipop, it's a prebiotic soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar. Actually good for your gut health, and it's delicious. Use code CITIUS25 at checkout for 25% off, and learn more at drinkolipop.com. Use the link in the show notes for the promotional discount as well. All right, so let's start Birmingham.
And make sure to tag us so we can keep doing this.
I know. Yeah, we like
tag us on Instagram and Twitter so you can be influenced by us.
I love all the tags we've been getting so far. Okay.
That's the best.
Birmingham Indoor World Tour. It was a British party at that meet. Dean Asher-Smith lowered her own national record, running 7:03 for 60 meters. Then we saw Neil Gorley take down Josh Kerr in the 1500, winning in 3:32.48 for the British record. The big hyped up races coming into this one were Laura Muir attempting the 1K world record. She didn't get it. She ended up running 2:34.53, and Keely Hodgkinson ran the 800, and she ended up running 1:57.18, also off of her British record. The big takeaway with this one is, one, Neil Gorley secures a spot for the World Indoor Championships next year in Glasgow. And the other takeaway from this I was like, they even in the press conference, they were talking about Laura Muir versus Keely Hodgkinson, what the best meeting spot would be for the two of them to race, and like, why don't they do it? And then you have these two hyped up record attempts, and they both fall short. And I wonder if fans left disappointed. Maybe not, because you got to see the two big stars. But there's just, like, in recent weeks, I feel like been a big uptick in let's get this star to race this star and do it in this weird off distance. And I don't want to continue pushing that to the extent it's like we're getting away from just, hey, there is just good racing in regular distance races. But this was another situation where I was just like, they could have just run the same race, like a 1K or the Kyle joked and said the 900. But I guess, Mac, what did you make of, we have big stars, they shouldn't be at the same meet, let's get them in the same race?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to what are the athletes incentivized to do? They're not really incentivized to race each other because they're not rewarded for it. What is either Keely or Laura like gain from racing one another and losing in that instance? Like, not really anything. They both won their events. They're both going to come out of it like fairly confident. So sort of like the risk reward there isn't there for the athletes yet. In a lot of these meets, if there were bigger prize packages and maybe contracts that rewarded athletes for racing more athletes, ranked in the top 15 in the world, I think you'd see people race each other more often. But it's not really, if I'm either one of them, I'm probably doing the same thing. Just because what does it look like on the other side if you do actually lose. Yeah, so that kind of sucked. On the other hand, it was nice to see Josh and Neil race each other. Nice to see Neil, get a win after a couple really close second places. And I think he had that post that he said last year. I think was that when we were talking to him. I think on the lap or the victory lap.
Oh yeah, you were
He
the one
told
to
me
break
that
break the news that he
yeah,
was
I
going to
think
go
I
for the
think he
record,
told me, yeah, he wanted to break the European record and or the
the British
UK,
record.
which record? British record. Sorry. Um, yeah, and he ran terribly. He blew up, and yeah, it was one of his worst races I think he's had in the last 2 years. And so he came back, didn't say anything, and got the job done in a great race.
Look at you, Big J Mac, breaking a little bit of news a
Big
year ago.
Big J. I gotta get back to doing a few of those. We'll see.
Um, Neil is one of those guys. Okay, so we talk a little bit about the point when you and Kyle retired, but there's still a couple of your former colleagues still running. Neil is one of those guys that you overlapped with towards the end of your career. One of my favorite things about the World Championships last year in the 1500 was that you had this perspective as to what made Jake Hayward, Jake Whiteman, such a good runner when he won the 1500 gold medal. Now with someone like Neil, he's entering sort of a similar, I would say, situation as Jake, where he's racking off a good string of races, had a solid indoor season, and it only bodes well if he can stay healthy and carry this out to the outdoor season. So I guess what sticks out to you about the type of athlete and the type of racer that Neil is from your recollection of racing against him?
Well, I wouldn't say. Well, I wasn't in these 332 races because I was never that fast. But I will say what's really valuable about Neil right now, how fit he is how often he's racing and the positions that he's putting himself in early on. He's committing to paces early on. He's confident in his fitness, and there's no way to replicate the last like 600 of those fast 15s, those competitive 15s in practice. So you have to put yourself in those positions in order to learn to give yourself the best chance when it comes down to, a championship final. So by racing Josh, by racing Ollie and Yared, um, in these really fast races, he's giving himself the best chance to succeed when he gets these championship, rounds and whatnot. And the only way that he can do that is by, continually putting himself in that position to be competitive to win in these early season races. So that's what I think bodes really well for him. Jake Whiteman's had a bit more experience doing that over the last couple of years. So I think that, that showed last year at Hayward. But yeah, Neil, I think, is in a similar position going into outdoors. He's stacking up some really good finishes against some good fields. So yeah, I would bet on him right now to do fairly well outdoors.
Can I take it one step further? Like indoor season, these are single races. There's no, prelim, semi, then the final. So now how do you get, what type of shift do you have to mentally do coming into the outdoor season to prepare for the rounds?
I think a lot of these guys, I mean, as you see, everyone is doing more strength work. So everyone's like, oh, I got to get stronger to get through the round so I can run a PB in the final. That's sort of like kind of what we're seeing now. But there's always a fear in your mind that there's going to be your preliminary heat is going to go slow. And that's where some people can get burned. I think you saw it like Ollie last year got burned, I think, in a slower heat. And it's sometimes it's just how you feel on that day, but it's all about maximizing your just odds, practicing tactics in races early on and just setting yourself up in training to be as confident as you possibly can. Confidence is such a huge thing going into those rounds, and not freaking out if you're in a bad spot, and being smart enough and fit enough to be able to move through the field kind of with the cards that you're dealt. Yeah, that's just sort of it. Be healthy and get as strong as you can. It's those are kind of the two biggest things.
So coming up are the European Indoor Championships this upcoming weekend. I believe Neil is running in it, right? He should be.
I bet you he is.
Yeah. But in addition to that, Jakob Ingebrigtsen doubling in the 1500 and 3K. Mohamed Katir, also the world championship medalist in the 1500, will be doing the 15 3K double. So really enticing matchups there. In addition to that, the European Championships have a slew of big names, including Marcel Jacobs in the 60, Femke Bol in the 400, Carson Warholm also in the 400, Keeley in the 800. So look out for the European Indoor Championships this upcoming weekend. If you're interested in watching, I believe it's going to be streamed on All Athletics TV. So you might have to get a subscription to that. That'll be March 2nd to 5th. I know it's one of those things where I'm like, it's going to feel like a website that you might be getting a computer virus from, but alas. All right. The things we do to watch the sport. Let's move on to Mondo Duplantis. He broke his own world record for a sixth time. He vaulted 6.22 meters. That's 20 feet and nearly 5 inches for those who may not be as familiar. He's now improved upon Renaud Lavillnie's world record from back in 2014. It was 6.16 now. So he's getting up there, and he keeps doing it by 1 centimeter at a time. A lot of people have been very quick to draw comparisons to Sergei Bubka, who did the world record 18 times in the 80s and 90s, and similarly also did it 1 centimeter at a time to cash in on that bonus in his contract. So two ways here. I applaud Mondo for breaking it a little at a time and working his way to bankrupt Puma each time out. But do you think there's if you're just a casual fan, like Mondo Duplantis breaking this world record ended up on the Today Show, and they showed the clip, and the anchors were wowed by it. I showed my girlfriend the clip, and she was amazed by it. She was like, "Oh my gosh!" And it literally is kind of cool because it is a person falling 20 feet. At some point, I guess for track fans, when it happens over and over and over again, it does feel a little less special. It's the same guy, just getting better time over time, breaking a personal best. But so I guess overall, this has its drawbacks. You can get tired of it, but at the same time, you can still be wowed and impressed by it. And good on him for getting his money. So good for the sport, bad for the sport that Mondo keeps doing this 1 centimeter at a time. What do you think?
It's only good for the sport. I mean, I think him doing this, it gives him the longest runway. I think it's one of the bright spots in the sport right now. So the more times he does this, the better. That event was packed. It was a pole vault only event. Both sides of that little gym were full of people. And I guess I see your point similarly. People are like, oh, if Bolt wouldn't have celebrated with 30 feet to go, he would have run this many hundredths faster, like
You're left wondering,
it's
right?
right, but still, like, no one has jumped higher than Mondo, so it doesn't matter. Like, what, even if he's only beating himself by a centimeter, no one has ever done that. So yeah, I think it's only good for the sport. Those events are awesome to watch. They're entertaining. I think that maybe some other meet directors or powers that be could take notes from those types of events. They are exciting, and I think the people are enjoying them. So maybe we see some more of that type of stuff. No, it's awesome.
Yeah,
why should he jump higher?
I guess it's sort of like at this point, how many had it's just like I feel like this is media side of me coming out where it's like, how many times does Mondo breaking the world record become is it a
No,
headline? And like,
but think about it though, when he hits like the 20th time, that's going to be a headline. Think about when it's the 30th time, that's going to be a
that's the
headline.
key
And it's
now,
going
I
to be
think, at this
like,
point, is you have to mention how
right.
many times he's done it. Because just doing it, if you had done it twice, then okay. Third time, all right. But now it's starting to get impressive that he's going to be doing. Next headline is Mondo Duplantis breaks the world record for the 7th time, his own world record. And
Yeah,
so I
I
guess
think
you can't get
that's
away with it.
I
That's
think
just
that's
how you
awesome.
frame things. Yeah. It all goes down to how you
And
frame it to
how
an audience.
he's only what, 23?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's He's got 10 more years of this. Like, get used to it. You know?
I can't wait. Like it'll be like Mondo Duplantis breaks it for the 100th time, and like that doesn't seem so far fetched.
No, no, it doesn't.
All right, moving on. Another young star.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a world record for breaking world records?
Did Edwin Moses do it when he was like in his win streak? Edwin Moses was one of the most dominant. This is a good fact. Let's put it out there. I'd
Yeah.
love to know, like, who has broken their own world record the most times, right? Unless you
Yeah.
were in an era where it was just like this week it's this
No.
person, this week it's this person. But that's like when walking was invented, probably.
I know. That's, all right,
Yeah,
we'll
no
see.
one
All
is
right,
keeping
come on,
track at that
Mondo.
point.
It's
Yeah.
on you, Mondo.
All right. Another young star that caught people's attention this past weekend, Talitha Diggs. Honestly, I thought that there was a chance that Talitha Diggs was going to go pro last year after the season that she had. 19 years old, maybe 20, runs 50.15 at the SEC championship this past weekend. Won the SEC title, set the collegiate record, set the American record. I mean, it was impressive all around. Her reaction afterwards was just fantastic. Just mouth agape, hands to the head, in total shock. But I honestly don't think that we should be totally shocked by her talent. She's the daughter of a 4-time Olympian. Last year, she won the NCAA indoor and outdoor titles, then went on to win USA's, qualified for Worlds, was just shy of making the World Championship final, and then won a gold medal as a member of the 4x4. Talitha Diggs is big time talent, and I forget the fact that like the United States didn't medal in the 400 last year, and this is the year to correct it. Talitha Diggs also, I remember, kind of had some amazing mix zone interviews last year, because I think like she doesn't see any of this as like a target on her back. Like she's just got her head in the right space. She wants to be a winner and a champion. And when she was disappointed after the semifinals last year, I think it was the biggest learning experience. And the best part was that it came when she was 19 years old, because now we talk about how young Femke Bol is. Talitha Diggs is even younger, and there's so much more room for her growth as an athlete to develop into faster than Allison Felix, getting up there on the all-time list.
I was sort of surprised that I don't want to call it slow. Slow is going to sound bad. I'm surprised that the American record wasn't sub 50, given how great of women's 400-meter runners that we've historically had in the US. I know that's like ridiculously fast, but like that's how good our athletes have been.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the first. I was like, oh, that's an American record. Are you kidding me? And then that it's set by a collegiate, which I guess makes sense because it's the indoor season. No, but just like what a tremendous run. All the college athletes are under like a pretty big load right now going into conferences, and they're backing off this week finally to get ready for NCAA. So I'm excited for NCAAs because that by all means it's getting even faster. So maybe we do get that sub 50.
So I think we're running out of lanes in the 400 for the outdoor season. That is everyone's fantasy to break the 400-meter world record, because all right, so the people to throw into this race are Sydney McLaughlin, I think Mo has been floated, Abby Steiner. Now you got to throw in one of the Dominican women who ran outdoors. Shawnee Miller-Weibo unfortunately can't take place in this race because she's pregnant for this upcoming outdoor season. But when she's back, you can give her a lane as the reigning world champion. But Talitha Diggs, basically after this performance, I'm like, throw her in there, throw Femke Bol in there. That's your fantasy 400 that with all those right people, the world record could go down. Now, the only problem is who's cutting the check to get all these people into the same race, which is the answer. No one is as of right now. And that's the harsh reality of the sport, is that we're never going to get all those people in the same starting line with the stakes that high and with the payoff being the world record. I mean,
come on, Monaco.
I know,
Do
right?
it.
Like Monaco, just do it.
Just
But
do it.
yeah, there's egos get in the way. There's going to be two of those athletes don't want to lose to anybody. It's like, what's a world record? I mean, if you're Sydney, what's a world record in the 400 in an event that you already got your main events world record? You brought it up before, leaving the people wondering like, oh, what could have Sydney run in the Open 4 is just as cool as like the world record, because you just leave it to people to continue wondering. So we're never gonna get it. I think that was one of the cool parts of like the Mike Norman podcast interview that we did, was that he openly questions like, why is the Diamond League final taking place after the World Championships, and like, or why is the World Championships taking place in the middle of our season? If you want to raise the stakes, like he's a big F1 fan. The Abu Dhabi race from 2021, it all came down to that. Everything was on the line at that Abu Dhabi Grand Prix between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And with the World Championships, yeah, you can test that in August, and then the Diamond League finals in September. And it's like, you have to go about explaining, like, it's not as high stakes. If you really want to make the World Championships the crown jewel part of this sport, it has to be at the very end, and like raise the stakes, make it all or nothing, and ensure that the top athletes are going to be there. But yeah, we're not fixing that part of the sport. We're two guys chatting on a podcast. We're not going to fix that.
Yep. Don't look at golf. Don't look at baseball. Don't look at
Yeah.
tennis. Don't look at the NFL. Don't look at the NHL. Don't look
Hey,
at the...
I won't say much because I don't think I'm allowed to, but I did hear that there is a documentary series in the works. I can't say anything else, but I'll leave the
but
listeners listening to that.
that's not going to do anything.
No.
Like,
I just think like it's not going to solve the problems. Yes, we're Mac. We cannot fall down the rabbit hole right now of the Drive to Survive is going to save track and field. It's not. It's a piece that can help the storytelling and engage new fans, but it's not the be all end all solution to our problems. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
Can I do 10 seconds?
All right, you got 10 seconds starting now.
I get 10 seconds? It's video broadcast rights, access to watch the event, and a series around that, like this docu-series.
Your 10 seconds are up.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Get people watching first, and then...
Yeah.
And
we were just texting about this morning because there was a Twitter thread about like the rise of the numbers and the broadcast and all the different components that went into that for F1. We'll save it for another day where we're a little less bored.
If you want to look it up, it's how Liberty Media just has moved.
The case studies have been out there. There's
Yes.
enough evidence about it. Okay.
Yes.
Also, shout out Elijah Godwin for going 44.75 for the world lead. He's got an absolutely amazing story. I actually want to try and get him on the podcast. He was impaled. I was gonna say that's the right word. Impaled by a javelin, nearly life-threatening, or I would say that is pretty life-threatening. It's
that is near death, life-threatening. Yes.
Yeah. And now ends up with the fastest 400 in the world so far this indoor season. Another guy who we saw at World Championships rocking the Team USA kit. It was like, oh, this guy is going to cash out and go pro, but no, he's still at it. And kudos to him. I saw he got picked up by the ESPN and SEC Network Instagram channels, and that's always really nice when the 400 is an event that people can relate to. They know what that is. It's 1 lap on the track, 2 laps indoors. People can get their mind blown by a time that fast.
Just go to your local high school track.
Yeah. Also, really quick, I do recommend going back and listening to one of the original episodes of Out of the Blocks with Jasmine, Caitlin, and they did it with Talitha Diggs, one of the first guests that they had. Fantastic conversation, really funny. You get a real good sense of her personality. So go and check that out. Out of the Blocks, they're crushing it with the sprinter storytelling. All right, BU, a little head scratcher here. They had 2 really fast sections of the men's mile, and I don't know which one people were told was the fast one, because they were both pretty even. In the first one, Henry Wynn took down the field that included Cooper Tier in 352, and then Jordy Beamish did textbook George on the whole on everyone in the other heat, and that heat included, I believe, Sam Prakel and the whole University of Washington men's middle distance squad. And Beamish ended up running 351, just narrowly missing Nick Willis's national record, and nabbed just shy of the Olympic standard too, right? Because I believe it's 351 flat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
350. I think it's 350.
yeah, so just off of that. So we also saw Sinclair Johnson fly out to Boston after scratching from Milrose Games due to food poisoning, and then after like flight issues to get out to Birmingham, ends up in Boston and runs 8:37 for 3K. Made it look super easy from the videos that I've seen. So all in all, another fast day at BU. I believe that's the last. That was the last chance meet. So another great season of indoor track at BU. But a big thing that's been talked about over the last couple of days, and Mac, this is right up your alley because it pertains to like your former coach and also just like the NCAA, is just how fast these 1500 mile times have been this past indoor season. All right, so it's a slew of variety of different factors. Improvement in, tracks, improvement in the spikes, that's a big one. Some mixing, pros and collegiate athletes, although that's been a thing for forever, but it's really leveled up in the last 2 years. And I saw a side by side of the like 2012 2013 NCAA qualifiers and this year's, and it's like the top guy in 2013 wouldn't have sniffed getting into this year's meet, and just like there's like 100 guys who have run sub 4 this year. So really, we're in a whole new different era. What have been, I guess, some of your thoughts observing all of this? It's sort of like, yeah, I mean, like if someone would have handed you a pair of the Dragonflies back when you were in college, I'm sure you would have been faster. And like, so it's not the athletes, this is not to say that the athletes from 2013, 2014 were crappy athletes and now we're in a different, like, everyone is superhuman. It's just sort of like it's a changing of the times.
Yeah, and it's cool. I'm not one of those people that's, I mean, I'm just sort of ambivalent about the whole thing. Like, I think it's really, really cool that everyone's running really fast and people are not getting hurt as much, and that's awesome. And I love that better training is more accessible to more athletes. I think that's a huge aspect of what's happening right now. Um, and yeah, coaches are more aware of, I think, how to get athletes run faster when they need to. And yeah, I don't know, it's all good. I don't care that kids are blowing my old doors off or my 2010 times. Like, I think it's really fun and it's really exciting. And like, it's a ton of different factors: shoes, training, coaches, schools, and accessibility to like seeing other people do things. It's exciting. I think like one Ivy League kid goes under, and then there's two others that are like, I can do that too. That's also a part of it. And yeah, I don't know, it's all good. It's all exciting.
So for the people probably wondering like what's going on at Washington right now with their depth in the 1500 mile, can you take us to when Andy Powell was your coach? How does a system like his work where you've got 8 guys pushing each other in practice and like everyone is getting better and everyone is at this high level?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is culture. So he's going to recruit off culture. That's the number one thing. I think it's really hard right now to recruit against NAU and Stanford and Oregon and a few of those other places, and you'd think like it'd be really, really easy for Andy, but it's, you still have to fight for a lot of that stuff. A lot of the blue chip athletes. But culture's the biggest thing. If you have a good culture on the team, then it's easy to get everyone to buy in. And once everyone's bought in, it's easy, to get people to run hard together and not being too competitive during workouts. Um, once you get too competitive in the workouts with each other, then you start racing, and that's just not good for a season. But besides running fast, I mean, I would say traditionally Andy is not known to be like a time trial coach. So I'm sure that they don't, yeah, they're excited about running fast, but I don't think any of them really care that much. It's all about winning. It's all about scoring points. Um, Andy has, what was that, 2014 or 2015 indoor team? It was all distance runners and a thrower, and they won. So it's I'm excited to see what happens at NCAAs next weekend.
Yeah, no, it's the type of thing too. It's sort of like Joe Wascom, who won the 1500 during outdoor season. Like when you talk about that culture, it's sort of like the 2-3 guy could also just pop out of nowhere and run really well at NCAAs next week. And then now you've got another name on that team.
Well, I mean, Oregon swept the 15 my freshman year, so it's been, we would have gone 1 through 4. My foot wasn't broken too, so I mean, I was second in indoors. That's fair to say. Um, I mean, this isn't new.
No.
This doesn't shock me. You know, like I've seen this before under Andy and under Vin and stuff. So I'm excited that Andy's got all his guys in there and everything's going well. And you know, Johnny's running really well, and Sam Prakel just won 2, you know, indoor titles that should have been one, but it's awesome. Oh, there we go. I got myself for later.
All right. That was BU. Let's move to our buy or sell segment. Now, before we move in there, quick shout out to our other sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by VDOT. VDOT is a coaching app based on the science of legendary exercise science and coach Dr. Jack Daniels, with a focus on training over tracking and coaching over running. VDOT offers access to the highest quality Olympic style training for runners of all levels, right from any mobile device. Unlike most running apps, VDOT knows you. It understands the type of runner that you are, what you're training for, how to maximize your efforts. And with their new adaptive trainer, VDOT gives you more control over your training, leveraging your feedback to deliver real-time data, which fine-tunes your workouts and leads to continuous progress. With fully automated and truly personalized, highly adaptive training, VDOT also analyzes your GPS and measures how accurately you complete your training, all in an effort to reduce the risk of injury and train more effectively. VDOT is offering 20% off their adaptive trainer using the code CITIUS at checkout. Download VDOT in the App Store or visit v.o2.com. I'll include it in the show notes. Choose the adaptive trainer and enter the code CITIUS at checkout to save 20% off. Take your running to the next level this year with VDOT. Our other sponsor is Velis Footwear. Velis is an active recovery footwear brand designed to help you restore, revive, and re-energize before and after you train. 2 years in development, this team has created the world's most comfortable, supportive, and lightweight active recovery shoe in the world. Get 20% off by using code CITIUSMAG20 with uppercase C and M in that code at Velis Recovery Footwear. Check them out today. And I'm really grateful for them. They just donated to the Release Recovery Speed Project team, because in just a couple of weeks, I'll be running 50 plus miles as part of a team on my way from LA to Vegas. I'm going to need all of the recovery I can get in that van. So thanks to Velis for the donation to the team, and also for their support behind the podcast. All right, Mac, what are you buying?
I'm buying Peter Seidler, the owner of the Padres. Let's go. I
Why?
don't think anyone should be I don't really think billionaires should be a thing, but unless they're the Padres owner. No, we just signed Manny Machado to another 10-year deal. We're gonna sign Soto next. Padres are getting a pennant. It's the best, man. It's the best to have an owner that is like trying to win and actually cares. This guy is like, for the last 3 years, have been like, I can't take it with me. So he's playing the game that other owners are afraid to. He's leveraging his own stake in the team. to make us better and to sign these huge names. It's awesome.
Is there anything track can learn from this? I'm trying to see where you're going.
I don't know. Does anyone want to take out like hundreds of millions of dollars of loans and leverage that against the potential growth of a team or a sport year over year?
All right, we're on it.
Maybe.
Maybe that's the way to do it. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's an exciting time to be a Padre fan, especially with the Chargers gone. They suck. They're never going to win. It's a Padres time.
Okay, real quick, since we're on baseball, are you buying the new MLB rule changes as well? Okay,
Yeah.
it was tied to track in the lap count this week. We're both diehard baseball fans. I'm not opposed to it. It's supposed to speed up the game. These games are already going for way too long. The evidence is there. It worked in the minor leagues. I'm open to the change.
Yeah, and I think the pitchers were initially, they hated the idea, but now that they can actually strategize with the clock, I think that's going to be really interesting because they can either pitch at 8 seconds or they can force the batter to wait until 0. So I think that they're actually allowed to play with that. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think it's going to speed the games up, and that was an issue. So
yeah, the other part too that I think was, I saw the Yankees complaining about was that like now their walk-up music is shorter, and so like they can't get into that like as much of a mental headspace or groove going into it. But I was like, you're there to play baseball. You're not there to like walk up to the plate to, TI's, let him out or whatever it might be. So it's like just go back.
What are the Mets going to do with the 10-minute long trumpet song?
I know, right? If you're the closer, like you gotta get a sped up version of that. Good point. Good point. All right, what am I buying? I'm buying Betty Lindbergh, 5K star, 98 years old. I was at the Publix Atlanta Marathon weekend, and on Saturday I ran the 5K and then stuck around by the finish line and got to witness 90-year-old Betty Lindbergh cross the finish line. I passed her on the course, and she was crushing it, just making her way to the finish line at her own pace. Broke the hour mark, which is good to see. Probably better than I would do at her age. But the other part to it too is the most viewed CITIUS Mag TikTok in history. Over 3 million views last I checked, and crushing it on Instagram as well, YouTube Shorts. So Betty Lindbergh, good for CITIUS Mag business, but also good for her to win, her age group at the USATF Masters 5K Championship. So a name to remember. I'm hoping, next year she's there so we could do it again for number 99, and then the year after that for the hundo. Running a 5K at 100, that's
insane,
wild. Even 98 is crazy to me.
She stopped her watch at the finish line. She got
like
those kudos on Strava.
Yeah, she I did search. I couldn't find her on Strava. That's going in like an actual like paper diary or something like that.
But that's, I mean,
but that's old school.
Can you search for anyone on Strava? Everyone knows that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's true. All right. What are you selling? Or do you want me to go first on this one?
I'll go.
Okay, go for it.
All right. I'm selling how we DQ people at championship meets here in the US. How long we
touched on this last week, but you broke it down. Okay. You went off on Twitter.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that it takes so long. I think that it should be like the NFL, and whoever raises that yellow flag needs to be mic'd up, and they need to tell everybody what they saw, and then everyone can boo. I think booing needs to be a bigger part of track and field. Like, I think you should be able to openly boo people, officials, all of that stuff. But
as someone coming from someone who was booed at a track meet,
this is coming from someone that was booed in high school by 4,000 people at a track meet, and I waved to everybody. Yeah, no, I think it needs to be more public. It needs to be way faster. I think you still have to pay cash in order to protest. That's crazy. That's insane. You have to actually have like hard cash on you,
like $100, right?
Yeah, you have to have $100. Yeah, to give to the protest booth. That's insane. Yeah, and also the Josh Thompson getting DQ'd in the 15. Is it 15?
Yeah.
Or mile? it was ridiculous. Like, I love Henry, you know, I love Sam Prakel. He ended up winning. It didn't affect the top three places at all. Also, if you go back and watch the first 100 meters, everyone is shoving each other. So, like, if you're not going to call it in the first 100 meters, why are you calling it in the last 100 meters when everything, all the bumping in the first 100 meters was actually more impactful to positioning? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's ridiculous. If you're going to call it consistent, like, just call it consistently. Also, if you go back and watch the, I said this immediately when it happened, when we figured out he got DQ'd. I was like, women's 800, what year was that? It was when Sage Hurta broke her wrist.
Olympic trials 2021. That's right.
Olympic trials, was cut off by Hannah Green. Also, big fan of Hannah Green. Not her fault. Didn't see her, but still cut in front of Sage. Sage falls, breaks her wrist.
No
Now,
DQ.
no DQ. And I would say that was more egregious. If we're calling it, like, have there been any changes to the rules? Is that public? Is it not? Like, that's, yeah. That's my first sell. My second sell, if we're doing this quick, concerts after track meets. People
This
are going
is
to watch
interesting.
track meet.
There's the announcement that I guess the LA Grand Prix and a couple other meets have kind of experimented with this over the years as well, but there's going to be like a headlining performer after the track meet. Now, it did finally hit me when you brought this up. The track meets are already 2 hours long.
Yeah, they're 2 hours long. Like, if anything, it should be before, maybe, if people are trying to, like, pregame, tailgate, that style of thing. No one wants to stay after. Also, Drake Stadium is stadium seating. It's bench seating. So you're going to be on a metal bench for 2.5 hours for a track meet, 3 hours if you're there early. And then there's a concert, maybe, I don't know if people are moving to the infield or whatnot, but, like, it's a long time to be at a venue.
You'll be there.
If there's a concert afterwards, I will be there. Hey, guess what? Guess who's watching the concert? Me, and probably you.
Yeah. So we might change our minds after this.
Maybe we'll change our minds.
In theory, right now, the idea isn't as appealing.
Yeah, I just think it's too long. People are going to watch a track meet. And I think that you should focus on making that track meet as entertaining as possible, not the things before and after. The event itself, like the core of the meet, could use some excitement, not afterwards.
This again goes back to the point that, like, an NBA game from the 70s and an NBA game now, there's just so much else happening during the actual game, between timeouts, between, TV breaks and all that stuff, that, we have that same thing in track. We have, breaks in between events and stuff that, like, you can fill that gap, but it doesn't have to be necessarily anything to the scale of like a full-on concert, but, like, there could be more stuff implemented there without it being too extravagant. Yeah.
I would say go to any NBA, MLB, NHL, whatever, any professional game, and just really pay attention to all of the things that are happening. Graphics on the board, music, video, like games being played on the video board, anything that's interactive, fireworks, lights, all this stuff. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that's going on around the game that is it's just for entertainment, to keep you there, keep you excited, keep you happy.
I'm going to give you something to do where it's like, that game where they put like the baseball cap and a baseball underneath, and then, like, it's three of them, and they, like, switch. You got to do that with, like, an Olipop can or something like that, and we'll put like a track.
I started to do that. All
right, we're unveiling that during outdoor season.
It's going to take some time. I got to learn some more things. But yeah, no, we should get that. That is going to happen.
All right. What I'm selling. I came across this TikTok today. It was served to me in my For You page, but there was this influencer. I don't even know if you could call him that, because he only had like 15,000 followers, but he was running a mile. I'm just saying, like, he was running a mile at the Armory, and yeah, I mean, I've run a mile at the Armory at one of these all-comer meets, but it's another thing to have your cell phone pulled out in the middle of it and, like, selfie videoing yourself during the whole race. Like, I don't understand why there wasn't an official who was just like, no phones on the track at the time. Like, It was a little ridiculous. I get, people do this in road races, but I went back and I looked at the actual race video, and he does look as silly and dumb as I thought. So, I'm selling that. In addition to that, like the dude seated himself in a heat that he's much faster, and he ended up like kicking to the win in like the last lap after he threw his phone to his buddy in the stands. I just thought it was all ridiculous, and I'm
Would it
also
have been better?
maybe I'm a
Would
little
it have been
salty, right?
better to
Because
do against to race another influencer or maybe author with a whole production crew and everything? Would that have been a little
hey,
bit
listen,
better?
that actually worked because like it was a legit race. It was just two people that were in it. It was a race. Like I didn't bring out my phone. It just so happened there were photographers and it was a full on production. But the goal of that was to get people to watch the track meet. It wasn't self-serving, but this guy filming himself was self-serving. Now, fun tangent, I've been going to the chiropractor a lot because I'm trying to work on my internet shoulders. And I was on the table this week, and he brings up the fact that he was like, "Oh, I told him I'm gonna run a mile at the Armory this week," and he was like, "Oh, really?" He was like, Are you familiar with author Malcolm Gladwell?" And I was like, "I know what you're about to bring up," and it was unprompted. He had no idea that I was the other schmuck in the race, and
The other you were the schmuck in
I
the
was
race,
the
Chris.
schmuck in the race. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, like if you go back and watch that video, like it's me versus him, and he kicks the shit out of me. He was like, oh, I was just more impressed with the fact that he ran 5:15 at like 57 years old. And I was like, yeah. And it's less impressive when it's like I come through like 10 seconds later. And I'm half his age. So yeah, that I still have not lived down that race. And I think this summer maybe we become training partners and we're going to do this together. I've been saying, I think I envision the way that I'm going to break 5 minutes for the mile is that it's going to take place like just at a track. No one else is around, no cameras, no nothing. Uh, Just two guys on the track, and it happens, and then there's no one there to believe that it ever happens because it probably won't even be in like a legit race. I psych myself out this week. I'm just trying to break 5:30, get myself back into it, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So, but all in all, back to my point, I'm selling this dumb influencer running a mile at the Armory with his phone pulled out. It was just ridiculous. All right, let's move to inside CITIUS Mag. What else we got going on? Dana Giordano just launched her own More Than Running newsletter to go along with the. Oop, hold on. That means my camera battery gave out. All right, Dana Giordano just launched her own More Than Running newsletter to go along with her podcast that releases every other week. We released a day in the life with Anna Hall video produced by Anderson Bobo. Fantastic work by him. I think, what is it, like 20K views on YouTube, 16 minutes long. Guaranteed you'll be a bigger Anna Hall fan after you watch that video. Out of the Blocks has an episode with Logie Tosaga Collins coming out pretty soon. You just spent some time with Rory Linkletter in California for an upcoming video. What was that? What was it? What's he getting ready for?
New York City half.
Oh,
And then he's
nice.
doing London or Berlin.
London.
I don't know the same. London. Yeah, then he's doing London afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
What
gonna
was the run?
he crushed. He did a 16-mile marathon effort. Came
Ooh,
through in 105 through the half. And the video is pretty fun because there are a million people on this loop. So
I
it's pretty entertaining.
you joked about it, but are we actually getting like the 6 minute version and then like the Mac Fleet director's cut where
That's
it's like all of it?
that's what yeah, it's like it's pretty I mean, I yell at an old man, so I
I'm
think
not
in the long
shocked.
cut we're gonna get that. Yeah, we're not shocked. Every time we do one of these things, I'm yelling at a car or someone on a bike. Um, yeah, we'll do a short little 7-minute version, and then I think we'll do like a 90-minute
For
unedited.
the hardcore fans.
Yeah, no, it was for the how did I say it to you? For the freaks. For the
For the
freaks, we'll get
freaks.
a 90-minute version, and I'll have some suggestions in the description on how to best enjoy the 90 minutes.
Oh gosh. Um All right, we've got Johnny Zhang working on episode 2 of our Empire Elite series. I think this one's going to focus on the coaches. Justin Britton is heading out to Turkey or Istanbul right now for the European Indoor Championships. Mac, you'll be headed to the 10 this weekend, right?
Yes.
So that'll be Saturday. Starts at 9:15 Eastern time. The faster sections are closer to midnight on East Coast time, but you'll be having a blast out there. You can watch it on pay-per-view for $5.99 at soundrunning.run. The Tokyo Marathon is also taking place this weekend on Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that's your little appetizer before the 10. This week on the CITIUS Mac podcast, we had Ken Rideout, who is running it. He's 51 years old, has run sub 230. Dude is an absolute maniac in just the way that he trains and just his overall intensity that he brings to the starting line. So I enjoy that. And I think that's it. The lap count was out this week and it was a hit. So that was everything in track and field this week. Any final thoughts, Mac?
No, that's pretty much it. We'll be in Boston next week, and we'll see all from there.
Boston next week for New Balance Nationals indoors. Get ready because the full CITIUS Mag squad, everyone from Caitlin, Jasmine, Dana, David, Justin, Johnny, Mac, Kyle, myself, will all be in attendance. All the gang all together for the first time since the World Championship. So we're gonna have tons of fun at New Balance Nationals. So until then, we'll be back in just a couple days with some more interviews coming your way. I'm Chris Chavez on behalf of Mac Fleet and the rest of the CITIUS Mag team. We'll see you next week.